And here we are. Can you see us live?
Let me double check.
Says we are.
It says we are. Hello, everyone.
Hey,
We are live.
good morning. Happy Friday. On this Friday, we are talking about culture. And specifically, what do you need as a leader to make a difference in your employee culture? So have you ever felt like it was you against the culture? Have you ever felt like you have good intentions, you care about people, you're giving it your all, you're using everything inside your toolkit, but you're still coming up against resistance? That's what my client was facing. And I want to share today a little bit about her story, but not just her story, what she did to turn things around. So my name's Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. That means what I do every day is I work with leaders such as yourself. I help them build more influence, be more effective in their communications so that they can build high performing teams and great employee cultures where employees are feeling excited to come to work or feeling satisfied and meeting their needs at work while delivering quality work consistently. So that's what I do. I'd like to introduce Kelsey Ann, who's joining me. Kelsey Ann, a little bit about yourself and maybe a few thoughts on employee culture from your perspective as an employee.
I am your marketing director. Sorry, I'm just sharing our stories here to let people know that we're live. So I'm your marketing director and do a lot of things for in-charge coaching behind the scenes. And culture, I've realized, is a huge impact on an employee because I am a past corporate employee for a few different organizations. And it's amazing when I think back to those situations where I was just a number. I felt like I was just a number. I didn't feel like I was part of anything, that I could see the clicks. Like there was just so many layers to culture that I didn't really quite understand until, joining your team and really understanding what culture is and then what culture can actually look like. Right? That there is, from the norm, the standards are usually what they actually could be and how that really impacts the employees.
Yeah, the day-to-day.
The day-to-day.
And the climate, the how we feel here.
Mm.
And that impacts engagement. So engagement is emotional commitment to doing the work. So that's our emotional commitment to the effort. Emotional commitment, it stems from how we feel here. And how we feel here is, influenced by the culture, right? You said you believed, I'm going to change the words here, but you believed you were a number. How did you feel?
Not very valued.
Not valued. What else?
How did I feel in those situations? I didn't feel valued. I felt like I was fighting against what was actually like the values that they post and then the values that are lived and that are there, because a lot of the times that's extremely different. And that's a lot of tension when they say they're inclusive, that they're they promote emotional intelligence, that they do X, Y, and Z, and then on the floor there's none of that happening. And taking charge and having initiative and running with things, although they might be spoken that that's what they want,
Mhm.
you don't do it because then all of a sudden you're putting like a target on your back almost for some.
Yeah. So what we say we do and what we actually do are two different things, and employees know the difference. So the values posted on the wall is not good enough. We know what's really going on. And how did that impact your engagement? So think back. So now you're thinking, or you believe,
Yeah.
I'm just a number. You're feeling undervalued, not valued. What's your engagement like?
Um, well, I can see it now. I'm not proud to say, but I kind of took steps back and I in a sense I was quietly quitting. I didn't know at the time that's what I was doing,
Mhm.
but it wasn't there.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that and being, vulnerable. So if you're tuning in and you're listening to us and you're interested in this topic, say hi, let us know you're here. We love interaction. We have our eyes here on the comments. So say hi and, give Kelsey Ann some love for being so vulnerable and sharing this, because hearing that perspective helps us as leaders think about the employees that are sitting there. And culture and climate is not just a one and done. It's not like, oh, we got it, check mark, moving on, never have to think about it again. It's something that we're constantly nurturing. So it's important to keep our finger on the pulse of things and keep rethinking, um, or observing how our employees might be, what they might be believing, what they might be thinking, what they might be feeling, and how that's impacting engagement, because engagement is constantly going up and down. So the story I want to share with you today, and to go along with the educational piece that I'm going to share with you today, is a client who I will not give you her real name to protect her confidentiality. We're just going to call her Julie today. So Julie, when I started working with her, she had been an executive director for a long time, and she had been successful at building and maintaining a beautiful culture. And all of a sudden, she was being brought in to act as an executive director on a new team, new department.
Right.
And my son is about to crash our live here. Okay, go see your papa. And every mom in the audience will understand this little interaction.
Yeah, yeah. Parents are working from home, definitely.
So she's walking in this new team. It was quite a large team. Knowing what she's doing, a strong leader, had dealt with culture before. She knew what she was doing. And yet she walked into a culture that was one of uh, blaming, tattletaling, avoidance, defensiveness, blaming, and more blaming. So what that looked like for her was people avoiding work, people avoiding responsibility, getting text messages about this person did that and you should reprimand that person. And, a lot of backstabbing, throwing each other under the bus. And it was driving her insane. Right. So, you can look at the fact that, hey, we're not being productive because we're spending our time throwing each other under the bus, and having to deal with all of that tension and that conflict. So there's a big waste of time, but it was also really grating on her. Every day she was walking into what felt like tension, chaos, drama, that she didn't really want to spend her time on. But it was taking up her whole day. And she did not feel good about that. She felt like she was up against the culture. And everything that she had done in the past that just worked wasn't working anymore. So that's when we started working together. And I really, really enjoyed working with her because she already knew a lot, right? She came in with the experience, the understanding. Leadership is not easy. She had a lot of the right tools already at her disposal. She was already thinking in the right ways. And we were able to leverage all of that and just make little tweaks to her strategy so that she could get results. And in a matter of months, not years, and for those of you who've dealt with culture, you know that culture takes years to change. In a matter of months, she had built a really strong we identity for her team. They cared for each other, not just in the I care for you sense, but actually demonstrating and behaving in a way that was caring and supportive. They were considering each other. And we had no more of that backstabbing. We were helping each other. So when she was receiving text at this point, was not about blaming, but it was about seeking help to support a fellow team member. Very different experience in a matter of 3 months. So I talked to my client, Julie, and I said, great, I'm so happy to hear that. We did a celebration dance. And then I asked her, what were the main 3 things? And that's what I want to share with you today. The main 3 things that led to that big transition, that quick turnaround. Because I don't want this to take you years. I want you to start seeing a shift now. Now, she was dealing with an extreme circumstance, but think about your culture, and there's always things that we can work on when it comes to culture and climate. Okay. So as you're watching this video, I want you to think about something that you might like to improve. So think about your employee culture and think, if we were to improve this by 10%, what would be different? Right? I'm going to give you a second to think about this. Kelsey Ann, any thoughts to add as people are thinking about what they would like to see transform in their culture?
Not right now. Nothing pops into my head.
And yeah. All right. So do you have something lined up in your mind? I'm going to assume you're saying yes, and we're going to start moving. So the 3 things that Julie did that really transformed the culture that she was dealing with. Number 1, understanding the purpose behind the behavior. Understanding the purpose behind the behavior. All behavior is purposeful. Okay, so your employee is showing up and blaming and throwing each other under the bus, or not doing the work, or avoiding responsibility, or avoiding you, or telling you what you want to hear, or whatever it is, whatever behavior you're witnessing right now, there is a reason for that. And when we think about culture, Kelsey Ann, you mentioned layers. And so when I'm working with culture, I work with it in layers. And you can think about it like an iceberg. At the top, what we're seeing is the behavior. But let me tell you, I've never seen 2 cultures that were the same. Because the behavior might be the same at the top, but once you start peeling back the layers, the values that underpin that, the spoken values, the values that are unspoken, the supporting systems, the worldviews and the beliefs here, the feelings that underpin all of it, the stories we tell, all of these layers, you discover something very different. And so instead of being concerned about the behavior and trying to push up against the behavior, go to understanding first. Ask yourself, why are you seeing this? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's happening here? What are they protecting against? What are they trying to gain? What are they trying to avoid? And you will find those answers in the norms, in the container that we've set up. So we set up the container, we set up the norms, we set up the policies, we set up the supporting systems, and then culture emerges. So if we want to truly start shifting the culture, we have to look at the container we're setting up. What's coming up for you, Kelsey Ann? Because I could talk about this forever and I can go in all
Right.
directions.
Yeah.
So give me some feedback here.
So my thought when you said that was like, well, what happens when the container isn't really yours to change, right? Like when you are just kind of a cog in the wheel of this big organization, or you're working for an institution or the government or something that you don't necessarily have control over changing way up here, that you might have a little bit of control down here, but there's so much built around that container, it's hard to get into the other stuff, right? The stuff that really you can actually do something with.
Yeah. So if you don't have direct control over the container, you can create a subcontainer, which we would call a subculture.
Okay.
So if you don't have control over the full, just focus on what you can influence and have control over, which is more of the team. You still have to consider the greater culture, because that will influence your container no matter what. So it's not perfect.
No.
But you can transform within your team and you can create a subculture.
Okay.
So what we've done, Julie and I, is we created something that's called a culture layer analysis, cultural causal layer analysis. So we've gone through and we've looked at every layer of that culture in order to find the tweaks, the things that we could change, adjust, add, clarify, do more of. But to look at the purpose behind the behavior shifted how she was approaching the behavior. And instead of fighting up against it, she started working with it. My son's very hungry. There is
I was just going to say, all I heard was
purpose behind the behavior, right?
feed the kid.
So it could, what's the purpose? Okay, so let's use this as an example, right? Yeah. So what's the purpose behind this behavior?
He's hungry.
Could be hunger.
Could be attention.
Could be attention. Could be that he's seeking some emotional connection, reward and emotional comfort. He could be seeking some loving connection, some love and belonging. It could be totally survival, which I doubt because this has been going on all morning.
I was just going to say, is this like breakfast number 3 or snack number 4?
Yes, exactly. So, do I just say, no, you're not going to have your thing, or stop asking me? Or do I take care of meeting the need? Do I figure out what the need is? What is behind this behavior and work with that?
One sounds like it would be a lot easier to be like, you don't need anything. You're not hungry. Get out of my hair. Mm-hmm. And the other one's more work, right? It takes time. And it's not necessarily, you have somewhat of an agenda, but you're not necessarily in control of that other, of him and what his decision is going to be in the end.
Takes more time, but it's effective. Mm-hmm. So do I keep dealing with the I'm hungry every 5 minutes, or do I find a solution that takes care of the disruption? Mm-hmm. It takes focus. It takes leaning into it. It takes focusing on the person first and understanding the situation. So number one, understand the purpose behind behavior. You will be gaining a lot of perspective. You're going to find the things that you want to tweak. You're also just going to feel differently. You're going to feel less frustration, and you're going to be more in tune with people. Which leads me to number two. All right, so number two is increasing in your influence so that you can become their ally. So instead of being the boss that's trying to make me do the thing, how can we be their ally, partnering with people? All right, so influence is connection plus trust equals influence. Alexis, I think you might be listening here. This should sound familiar to you. So connection plus trust equals influence. When we are approaching things from an overly rational standpoint, so I'm going to go to the extreme here. And we try to rationalize with people and we tell them, don't let your feelings cloud your judgment and look at it from this perspective. Just grow up and do the thing. What happens?
More resistance.
And so if we rewound back in time and we looked at Kelsey Ann when she was feeling undervalued and she believed that she was a number. And if I was her manager and I told Kelsey Ann, you better just step up and do the work. You're paid to do it. And this whole, like, you're not valued, like you need to stop thinking that. That's not true. I value you. What would happen internally?
Internally, you'd probably get an FU, right? Like I just, as an employee, being told what I'm feeling and just to kind of get over it doesn't feel very good, right? They're not partnering with me. They're not trying to find a solution with me. It's just basically suck it up. Well, I realized you can't leave your emotions at the door before you go into work. Like they're with you. So you're either going to check into it or you're checked out.
Yeah. So connecting with people where it counts means you're going to be connecting with their emotions. You're going to meet them where they're at. And people make decisions based on their emotions. So by the time we're thinking rationally, we've already made the decision. You make it with your feeling and then you rationalize your decision. So if you're approaching it from a rational standpoint, the decision is already made. They've already decided that they're undervalued and they're just a number. So to tell them that they're not and try to show them evidence that they're not you're just going to come up against something that's already decided.
Mm-hmm.
But if you meet them where they're thinking and feeling, if you say, I'm hearing you, you think this and you're feeling this. I recognize that experience. I felt like that before. So what's happening right now that you're feeling that? As I'm just speaking these words right now, Kelsey Ann, what's the difference internally?
You're hearing me, right? You're listening. You actually care about me as a human, not just that number, not just that cog in the wheel to get the thing done.
Mm-hmm.
And you're taking time out of your busy schedule to ask and not assume.
But I'm taking time out of my busy schedule to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm taking time out of my busy schedule to ask. I'm going to take the time anyway. So I might as well shift my approach. Because if you've been approaching it from the let's be rational standpoint, that either it blows up or people tell you what you want to hear so
Mhm.
that you go away,
Mhm.
but the behavior keeps happening. So you might as well try something different, right? If you want a different result, shouldn't we try something different? And so the something different is what Julie did. She started meeting people where they're at instead of being frustrated. And step one really helped her release some of that frustration so that she could meet them where they were at and look at them as whole people and individuals that had needs. And by partnering with them, they partnered with her. So now we're working together, which is what she was after.
Mhm.
But it had to start with her first. Instead, she couldn't just say, you work with that person and it's time to get along. She had to first get along. She had to first be that first partner. And then she could get them on board for, there's something that I want here for this culture. How can we work together to make this happen? Is that something that you want? Yes. I want to feel like the team has my back. I want to feel like I matter. I want to feel like we're all in this together. Of course. Right? So now we're working together towards that. Make sense?
Mhm.
So first we understand the behavior and we increase influence so that we can start partnering with people. Third, then we start looking at the values. Okay. You pointed to the fact that there are values that we speak, and then there are values that, there's the things that we speak and there's the things that we really do. And that often there is a difference between these things. So Julie had to take a deep dive into what were the values. If she wanted to see this shift in behavior at the top of the iceberg, what would need to underpin that? And not just what values would I put on the wall, but what values could we embody? So one, getting the clarity on those values, and two, figuring out how to really support those values. So how do you know as an employee what is valued? I'm going to get you to do some thinking work here because I'm a coach and I don't do all the thinking for you.
Yes, no.
All of you watching, think about, how do employees know what we value? And the answer is not what's on the wall. How do they know?
They know by their experience.
Mhm.
So they know, they can see who's getting promoted because they're friends with so and so, right? They can feel tension in the office because of X, Y, and Z. Like there's
So who's being promoted? So we're looking at the actions and what
yeah,
we're rewarding.
right.
Okay, what else?
You can see clicks, you can see how people, like, it's been a while since I've been in corporate, so it's kind of
So,
my
so
little bubble.
So think about that. I'm just going to, Alexis brought up a good point, modeling behavior. And I would even go a step, modeling behavior, but demonstrating in a way that is really, really, really impactful. So it's one thing to do it quietly, and it's another thing to do it in a big way and then just tell people like, hey, we value this, and this is why I made this decision. Okay, I'm reacting in this way right now because this is what I value. Or we're going to do this right now because, and linking the value to the behavior that we're demonstrating. So that goes in the messaging. So modeling, I would say, in a big way.
Mhm.
So do as I do, not as I say. What else?
I think I'm just trying to think now. My mind went blank.
It's all good. I'm going to add some pieces here. So weaving the values in your everyday communication, making it part of how you're communicating, the words you're choosing. Often I'm just thinking of some feedback that I gave to a client just the other day about an email communication. I said, transform the language, make it more aligned with the values. And he said, oh my God, I can't add any more fluff. And I said, no fluff, actually cut the fluff. If it's fluff, take it out, because employees know what fluff looks like and they don't want to be fluffed up. But transform the words that you're saying to be aligned with the values. So when we're constructing our message, the way that we're holding meetings, the way we're delivering tasks and projects, and just to be in alignment and incorporate the values, speak from that place. And then implementing supporting system to showcase and promote those values. For example, if I am wanting more teamwork. So here I'm going right off the top of my head. Bear with me. I'm making this up as I go, flying by the seat of my pants. I want more teamwork, more we're in this together. So I'm going to start speaking in we. We are in this together. We believe in supporting each other. How are we going to deal with it? So I'm going to start just weaving that we're there for each other. We have each other's back. We can trust each other. So I'm going to start weaving it into my communication. I'm going to start demonstrating it. So if I'm like all in it for myself and I'm flying solo, I'm demonstrating something different than what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get myself in alignment and start modeling, behaving in that way, in a we way, and then saying, hey, I've started doing it this way because I know we value being a team here, because I know it's important that we work together. And then I'm going to start implementing supporting systems to showcase these values or to promote these values. So that might look like adjusting how we're doing team meetings. How can these team meetings be more we-centered? Maybe I'm creating some kind of reward system. So maybe we have an employee of the month, and that employee of the month is the person who's helped other people. So that's how you win employee of the month. It's not about your numbers anymore. It's about how you've participated for your team or for a team member. So I'm shifting the way that we reward. And we can also look at what are our boundaries. What are the policies? Are they we-centric? So we start making adjustments there. So that is also part of the supporting system. That's part of the container. As you're doing this work in values, I would also suggest that you look at the values that might be in tension or in conflict with each other, or supporting systems that might be discouraging a value rather than promoting it. So an example of this, I have lots of examples to pull from, but I'm trying to think of which one I want to pull from. An example of this might be teamwork. So maybe the value is teamwork, and we believe that no one is more than the other. Okay. That's the value. We're all in this together, and we are no one is above. Beautiful value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're going to add a value about initiative. Initiative, meaning that we're going to step up and take initiatives above and beyond.
Okay.
Okay. I have these two values, but no one's taking initiative. What's happening?
You haven't aligned with your employees.
Haven't aligned with my employees,
You
potentially.
might not have aligned yourself with those values.
Potentially. Alexis, if you're still with us, what are your thoughts here? Why are we not seeing initiative? We're talking about these two values. We're promoting them. Giving you a moment to think before I give you the answer. So in digging with this team and understanding more about their belief system and how they were perceiving these values in this team, taking initiative meant getting a spotlight. And I can't get a spotlight because that would mean I'm more than another. And that would be disrespectful to my other team members.
There's a conflict there for that. Yeah, for that
There's
employee.
a tension here. Okay, so now
I want to take initiative as an employee, but yet I don't want to let down my team by raising my hand and saying I'll do it.
Yeah. What does it say about me, and how does it make other people feel? If I'm taking initiative and I'm rising in some way, how does that impact how they feel? Because we're supposed to be all on the same level. We're a horizontal team.
Mm-hmm.
So just an example to get you thinking. And then once we know what we're dealing with, so now knowing this belief, it was about reframing. What was initiative? What did initiative look like? What did it mean? How do we reward initiative that's not compromising what they believe about teamwork? And this is talking from a beautiful team. Like, this was not a problem team. This is a wonderful team. But we wanted to see a little bit more initiative. And we are working now on changing those, reframing and changing those beliefs so that taking initiative, stepping up, doesn't mean that it compromises the team.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost that you had to reframe it to be supporting the team, not taking away from the team. Okay.
So what does it mean to be no one above? So that was a definition.
Mm-hmm.
On. And it's not as easy as saying, like, let's reframe it. We're done, moving on. There's real team coaching work that goes into reframing these things and moving through, and some facilitating some pretty intense conversations, and creating supporting systems that will support the new beliefs that bring these two things in alignment and deals with the tension that was existing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to invite you to think about all of the values and how they're working together, and if there's any tensions that exist because of the way that we're thinking or the supporting systems that are in place around these values. So I just walked you through what Julie did to transform her employee culture in 3 months. So she understood. So today she understands the purpose behind behavior in her team, in her department. It was more than a team. She had multiple teams under her. She increased her influence. She partnered with people. She became their ally and they became hers. And they eventually became each other's allies. And she reinforced the anchoring values that underpin the culture that she really wanted, what she was really after. And this is all easier said than done. Julie was a very experienced leader. And she needed a few tweaks. So if you're looking for a little bit of support, a little bit of tweaking, you can work with someone like me, an expert coach, someone who can give you new perspective that can guide you through the process. So Julie participated in my program, The Executive Edge. And right now I just opened up seats inside that program. So if you're kind of like a Julie and you would like to dive into this, there is an opportunity right now on deck. There are 6 seats inside of this program. Kelsey-Ann, I want to say that we've got 3 seats that are taken, which means we've got 3 seats left. The doors close next Wednesday, but we're closing the doors as soon as the seats are taken. So don't wait. If you're interested, we're going to drop in the link in the comments, a link for you to access the information and to book a call with me. So let me tell you a little bit about the Executive Edge, just so you get a sense of what it is, in case you're interested. So it's an 8-week leadership development program where we're focusing on the things that underpin culture, emotional intelligence. All right, so a big focus on emotional intelligence, building up your influence, improving the communication, and making a positive impact on your employee culture. And what that looks like in a live sense, what happens in the 8-week is we start with an EQ leadership profile for yourself. So we get to determine your starting point. So you, like Julie, might already have a lot of things figured out. So we're going to look at where you're starting, what we can leverage, and those areas of opportunity. And you're going to get a one-on-one coaching session. So I don't believe in just group, and I do not believe in asynchronous. Everything is live. You get real access to me. Then we're going to have in your small group 6 training/coaching sessions. So there's a training element, there is an active learning element, and there is a coaching element to each one of those sessions. So we see each other for 6 weeks. People love these small cohorts because it's a personal journey, but they get to do it beside other people who are having the same struggles or who are gaining some insights that they can share and learn from each other. And then after those 6 weeks, we reassess you and you get another one-on-one coaching session to make sure that you have come full circle and you have gotten everything that you needed out of our time together. And you walk away with your new personalized strategies and are in alignment with the type of leader that you want to be. And my belief, and this is more than a belief, I believe it because I see it every day, is that you can become more effective without compromising your values and be the type of leader you want to be. So that's what I want to help you do. Be more of the leader that you want to be and get the results that you are seeking. So if this sounds like it's something for you, if you feel excited, if you feel like you want to explore this, you can book a call. Booking a call does not mean you're in. Booking a call means you're in for a conversation with me where we're going to explore what you're desiring, what you'd be looking to get out of the program. I'm going to make some recommendations for you. And then if it feels like a good fit, we can look at getting you a seat in the program. So that's not, if you're booking a call, it's not you making a commitment. It's just you and I exploring. if this is the right fit for you. And if it is, we'll take action on that together. So if that sounds good, book your call now. So I think right now we have spots open for next Wednesday for calls. I think that's all that's left in terms of what's on my calendar. If Wednesday does not work for you, if you really want to call and you're not seeing a time that's working for you, send me a private DM and I will make sure to get you in to make this happen for you before the doors close. All right. It was a pleasure. Kelsey Ann, what was your takeaway? What did you like about today's session?
I think I liked knowing that you can make a sub-container in a larger container, because I think a lot of leaders are in those situations where they feel that they don't have any power, but when you're making a subculture in a larger culture, you do have power, you know, over that. And we know that power is one of our 5 basic needs, right? So that I think was a very key point for me in this conversation and how that can play out.
Yeah. Leaders have a ton of influence. And we can be aware and intentional about it, or we can stay reactive to what's happening around us and feel out of control, right? So when we become intentional, when we become aware and intentional in every little thing that we do as leaders with these bigger pieces in mind, we regain that sense of control, even when we don't have power over everything.
And I feel as though those leaders, that kind of control, that it kind of permeates within in that department, because usually when a leader's feeling out of control, so is everyone else.
And let me tell you this, people follow leaders, they don't follow organizations. So be that leader, become the resonant leader that people want to follow. That's exactly what we do inside the Executive Edge, is we work on the EQ competencies that position you as a resonant leader, as a leader that people want to naturally want to follow because it resonates with them. Following you says something about who they are. And that is a win in my books. So I hope to hear from you. Please join me. Love to talk, love to explore. And that's it for today. So leave in the comments what you're taking away from today. Alexis, if you're still with us, I'd love to hear what was important for you, what you're taking away from today, and anybody else who's listening. Please let me know. You sharing what you're taking away from these videos gives me motivation. It gives me meaning and purpose to continue giving to you in this fashion. So let me know, what are you taking away? What are you actioning from this video? Thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday and beautiful, hopefully beautiful weekend. I think this will be our last snowstorm.
I hope so.
Bye.
Bye.